But I think it's always good to try to have at least two different things going on at the MUG meetings, because this is a fantastic presentation on the beagle bone. But if that's not what you're interested in, it'd be nice to have something else at the meeting that you're interested in. So we usually try to do like an hour and 15-minute meeting and a 15 or 20-minute meeting. So tonight, I'm just going to spend 15 or 20 minutes on time. Time is ticking down. But what I want to point out is we want other people to come up and give 15-minute presentations on something. It doesn't have to be a huge presentation. It doesn't have to have a lot of time put into preparation. I wrote up some notes on how I use NTP. That's what I want to talk about tonight. This is not a huge in-depth conversation about NTP. I don't know the ins and outs of the protocol. I just know how I use it, and we want to do more presentations like this, I think, for a 15 or 20-minute thing. So maybe you're not prepared to give an hour and 15-minute talk, but maybe there's a 15-minute talk inside you that you'd like to give. So I don't know what our presentation is going to be for April, but maybe one of you would like to volunteer for the short presentation.
Everybody has a presentation inside of them.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
It's dying to get out.
You just got to let it out.
They just don't know how. It doesn't take a great deal of preparation, as I'll demonstrate tonight.
A whole lot of time.
Yeah, but you know it all.
No, since
pretty much where I get in trouble when I think I know it all.
No, Jim actually got roped into this pretty much last minute when he said, "What's our second act?"
Yeah.
Oh, he did volunteer.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So
I think he volunteered in the sense of I might in the future talk about NTP, and we said, well, what about this month? Did I say I was to go to this month?
Yeah, you have to kind of I'm going to turn kind of sideways here so I can see the screen. I've gotten to the age where I need progressive lens glasses, and I've had them for like 4 or 5 years. Saturday I broke my glasses. So I've gone back to wearing an old pair of normal glasses. Computer monitors are at the wrong distance.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
And my monitor at my desk at home, it's terrible. I've got a nice big 30-inch monitor, it's great, but it's at such a distance that with my glasses on, it's too close. With my glasses off, it's too far.
Oh.
And I went to the eye doctor yesterday, I got a new pair ordered, I won't see him for a week.
Got to make a fast trip to the optometrist.
I already took care of it, but it's going to be like a week before my new glasses come in. And I'm dying here. I actually pulled the monitor way up close to the desk, so there's just enough room for the keyboard and the monitor, and then I lean in, and I can try to get some work done.
Now your neck's out of joint, so.
And believe me, I feel it. It's been like 4 days, and it's driving me crazy. But like tonight, I cannot see my screen here with my glasses on, and I won't be able to see the screen up there with my glasses off. So I'm kind of screwed. But we're gonna give it a try anyhow. Let's see. I just can't see what I'm doing yet.
Just increase the font size really large, and you'll see what you're typing.
Okay. Let me move this presentation over. I got my glasses on so I can see. I'm going to try and just work off that screen. Okay, so time. Right, we did a time shift Sunday morning at 2 a.m.
we're still feeling it.
Yeah.
Say for a week.
Those generally don't bother me. This year, getting older, it's bothering me more. So in Unix and Linux, we've had commands to deal with date and time. In fact, it's the same command. So we've always had the date command, right? You can use date. It'll tell you the current date. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm going to use the date.
Pretty close.
I'm going to do a couple of things. I want to, when I play with time, I like to watch what it's doing. So I keep that thing running so I can see, every second it's ticking away. All right? Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I need to make my time wrong. That's pretty close because I had it set up with the NTP. So we're going to do a date, and if you guys, let's see. Well, first off, the date command. I'm not quite sure who came up with this syntax. Right? It's month, day, hour, minute. Optionally, you can do the century, the year, and then point seconds. All right, well, I'm just going to change the date, or change the time rather, to, what is today? Today is 0310. It thinks it's 8, so I'm going to make it like 2025. Okay? So now you see over here, we jumped from 2018 to 2025. So my system is off by, 7 minutes? A little less than 7 minutes? Right? So one way to fix it would be to just run the date command again. You look at your phone, or you go by some time source, maybe the clock on the wall, and you use the date command and you try to get it close. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is using the NTP date program. It's just a client application that will
Which is deprecated.
set the NTP data deprecated?
You're now supposed to query the NTP things you use.
But that's what this does. NTP date will query.
Yeah, but you use, I think it's NTP or NTPD with the -Q option.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to that. So the NTP date command, you can install that with apt-get, so it would be apt-get install NTP date. I don't need to do that because I've already installed it. That's how I would install it on a Debian-based or Ubuntu-based system. So I'm going to use the program to go query the time. NTP date. I like to do -V because it makes it verbose. -Q. And I'm going to query a time server. And I'll talk a little bit more about time servers in just a minute. But a good one is us.pool.org, ntp.org. Okay. Run that. Okay, that's right. And I didn't even look to see if I've got an internet connection, but I assume I do. Yeah, okay, so that ran, it ran the command against this server, 0.us.pool.ntp.org, and if you do a dig on that server name, there's actually 4 IP addresses come up, so it goes out and it hits all 4 of those servers, and you can see here, I'll move this down just a little bit at the edge of the screen, it'll be easier to see. So it hits these 4 servers. It tells me a little bit about the type of time server they are, and this one here is a Stratum 1, and I don't know much about Stratum, the 1s, 2s, and 3s, but I think the Stratum 1 is the more accurate, all right?
Oh.
Stratum 2, and you can have Stratum 3 and Stratum 4. Anyway, Stratum, it's got one server that's a Stratum 1, so that's what it picked as my time server, and I'm off by -398.698,075 seconds. So 398, that's
About 6 and
something less than 7 minutes.
6 and a half minutes, yeah.
Yeah, which is about what we guessed when I changed it from 8:18 to 8:25. It was 8:18 in some seconds. Anyway, so because I did the queue, it just queried it. It didn't set my time. You notice my clock is still wrong. Still 8:28, when in real life it's like 8:21. But it did tell me that my clock is off by almost 400 seconds. So that's interesting to know. So it's really simple to then set my time with this command. I just take off the queue, and I just run the command. I'm going to leave the -V on there for verbose, just so it tells us what it's doing. But if you watch the time over scrolling on the left, at some point it's going to jump. 2028, 2022. See, it jumped. It did change my clock, and now we're pretty close to accurate. The thing is, this just set the time. It doesn't keep the time synchronized, it just set the time. So if I assume the clock in my computer is accurate, which it seems to me like no clocks in any computers are ever accurate, it's going to stay close, right? So anyway, that's how you can just, on a one-time deal, that's how you can go set your time. What's more interesting to me is making sure that my servers, especially my servers, stay in sync. You ever, I've got a rack in a data center with a whole bunch of servers in it, and you ever go look at like log files to try to figure out what's going on, and you got a bunch of servers and the clocks are all different, and you look at it in like syslog or var log messages or something, and you don't know what time something happened because the clock's wrong. It's really nice to keep the clock synchronized. So that's what I use NTP for. So I showed you NTP date. The other thing you can install is NTP, and it's apt-get install NTP. Right? I won't do it because I already do have it installed. NTP is both a client and a server, and it runs as a daemon. It's a client in that it will go out and query a server to get a time, and it'll set the time on your system. It's a server in that you can configure other machines in your network to query your main machine as its time server. Some people will just set up all of their machines to go out and query like pool.ntp.org. I like to have a time server in my cabinet and all my machines sync to that. I'm more interested in all my machines being the same to some known standard than I am with all of them being exact with the world. I mean, I can be off by milliseconds. I really don't care, as long as they're really close with amongst themselves. So I set up my own time server in my rack, and everybody syncs to that.
Okay.
So the NTP daemon, that's when you install NTP, that's what you get, the NTP daemon. Along with the NTP daemon comes a config file. That would be ntp.conf. All right. Let me get that out of the way. I don't know about you guys with the newer releases of Ubuntu. I really miss a border on my Windows. Because to me, when it just sort of goes right up to the edge, it's like those infinity pools in California where the water goes right up to the edge, and then there's like the rest of Los Angeles, nothing in between. It drives me nuts. Like, I can't see where one starts and the other stops. That's enough of my rant. Anyway, here's the config file for NTP. It's got a few important things in here. First thing I think that's very important is the servers. In this case, we're going to hit. This is the file that comes from Ubuntu. It's configured by the Ubuntu package developers, and they're going to a set of servers that are part of the NTP pool, but prefixed with Ubuntu. So 0.ubuntu.pool.ntp.org and so on. And then there's a fallback, just ntp.ubuntu.com, if one of those ntp.org servers isn't accessible. So that's the servers we're going to hit. All right. Another important thing is the drift file. That keeps track of how far off your clock is, and helps it in figuring out the algorithm to use to keep your clock synchronized. Because you don't want to just every so often just change your clock. You want it to be a gradual thing. You never want it to get more than a few milliseconds out of sync, but to get it back in sync, you want it you want to cause the clock to stay in sync instead of allowing it to get out. And there's things you can do with the clock that will I think speed up and slow down the clock and keep it in sync better. Anyway, the drift file is part of that. There's some statistics and other things I don't know much about. There's also some permissions and whether we want to do, I think the -4 and -6 are, I think, for IPv4 and IPv6. There's also NTP versions. I think there's NTP version 3 and NTP version 4 you can specify. Anyway, there's some restrict things so you can say who's allowed to talk to me. One of the things that you can do is, as a server, it can broadcast to your network that it is an NTP server, and your clients can listen for those broadcasts so that you don't have to configure them specifically to talk to a server. They'll pick up that broadcast message and know that that's who the server is, and then they'll start communicating with that. Anyway, that's the config file. It's real simple to start. Service, NTP start, and now it's running. So now it's going to keep in sync. Even if I going to, let's see, let's do it this way again. I'm gonna move this one to this side, move this one to that. Let's see, date. Let's see, it was 0310. The hour is now 20. Let's go 26. And you see the clock get wrong.
Yep.
All right, so we're from 2028 to 2026. And now, after some period of time, it will sync back up. It's sometimes interesting to know exactly when that's going to happen, but over time it will correct itself. But anyway, while we're watching for that to do its thing, let's talk a little bit about the time servers. The time servers that I showed you, the pool.ntp.org. There's a whole nice website. Web browser over. So there's let's see, I think if I maximize it, probably be better. This is the NTP.org site. They've got all these servers out there, so we can go to North America. There's all these North America servers. Within North America is countries. And they've seen a rise in the NTP servers that are being put online. Middle of 2007, they had quite a jump, a whole lot more servers. Came online. And there's the 4 servers I was talking about, 0, 1, 2, and 3.
Do they know if that's like data centers coming online?
May I have your attention, please? The time is now 8:30, and the library will be closing in 30 minutes at 9 o'clock. Please be advised that the internet will shut down 10 minutes before closing. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway,
That's a good call.
there are 605 IPv4 NTP servers in the United States. There's 198 IPv6.
Easier.
You can see 3 years ago there was only 92, so that's climbing nicely. Anybody can be part of this pool. There's cards you can get to put in a computer to be a time server that work off a radio signal, I think.
Yeah.
There's USB dongle things you can plug in that will capture the time off a radio signal, and then with that you can become part of the pool if you want to contribute to that. They really would like you to be serious about it if you want to do it. Make sure that if you're gonna be part of the pool, you intend to stay part of the pool for a long period of time. They really don't want people coming and going. Because what happens is if somebody's part of the pool, if you're part of the pool, somebody could, I think the smart thing is to just pick one of these generic names. But if I publish myself as part of the pool, they could point directly at my server.
Actually, if you use the real generic one without a number in front of it, you get even more generic.
Does that work if I just
Yes.
put the us.pool.ntp.us?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back and see if my clock synchronized yet. 2030? No, it hasn't synchronized yet. It will over time. Depending on how far out the time is, it will either use the set time of day function in the C library or the adjust time function. I think if it's less than, I found different conflicting answers to this. In one place it says if it's less than 128 milliseconds, it'll use the adjust time to slowly adjust the time back to being exact. If it's more than 128 milliseconds, it'll just use the set time of day to set it. Anyway, this is how I do it. I set up my servers in my data center to all point to one of my servers, and that one server points to the pool of servers. In my case, I'm using Ubuntu's pool. So who else is using NTP? Excellent. Excellent. I think for servers it makes super sense to do it, even on a desktop. You might as well keep your time synchronized, right? I've been using it for a long time. I remember years and years ago, there used to be you could use your modem to dial up a number, and the modem would connect, and all it would do, the thing on the other end would just keep spitting back time. Anybody remember seeing that? You must know yourself.
One of the services in the United States National.
It was NIST.
Standard Time, right?
Yeah, NIST was doing it, and they just spit back. It's like once a second, I think, would spit the time back, and it would just be this certain number of characters. And the program on Unix at the time could tell the time between characters. I think to know, there was something it could tell to know how far away the time server was and how long it would take, and it was like 300 baud or something ridiculous. It could tell how long it should take for those characters to arrive, and that's how it would know how much to adjust the time by from what the answer it got. Because by the time you see the answer, you're already delayed, right? It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's still the way NTP works. You play ping pong with the server.
Is that right?
Yeah, which is one reason why they deprecated the NTP date, because it was a very inefficient method, so they didn't like the bandwidth it was taking.
Really? So it listens on port 123. I wonder if we could just do a netcat on that on 123 and just watch the. I don't know netcat well enough to just
Yeah,
do
you
that.
look at your watch and you say what time you think it is, and tell. Then it looks at its watch and says, "I think it's this time."
Yeah.
And it assumes by default that it's equal transit time both
Right,
ways.
right.
So it matches up to halfway in between, and then it's a defined Coleman filter to gradually narrow in.
Yeah. Yeah, until it gets it perfect. Let's see. We still haven't synced yet, but I'm not that worried about it. It will sync over time. Any questions? Everybody ready?
Is it time for dinner?
Let's ask. Okay, so that's our short 15-minute presentation for tonight. And I highly encourage anybody to also come up with a small presentation and give it at one of the upcoming meetings. All right, thank you.